Call to order. Good evening. I'm Nat Welch, co-chair of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee. Can you hear okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm calling this public meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Meetings are held under the authority of the legislation that authorizes remote and hybrid meetings until March 31st, 2023. Today's agenda was posted on the committee's page of the town website, and this hybrid meeting is being broadcast via Zoom and is being recorded. All votes will be taken by roll call vote. Since everyone's familiar with Zoom, I'll skip the Zoom instructions and move right to appointing a recorder. Richard, are you okay doing recording tonight?
Okay.
Thank you. So Richard will be our recorder. I'll take a roll call vote now. Dorcas?
Present?
Yeah, present. Yes, thank you. Richard?
Present.
Adrian?
Present.
Good. Mary Beth?
Present.
Excellent. Deb?
Present.
Sam?
Present.
Excellent. And right now at this point, we have 6 members, so we have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, I'm present also. So 7 members, and we have a quorum. Our first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from September 8th. Copies were sent out to each of you. Are there any comments or changes that need to be made to the minutes from September 8th?
To accept the minutes as recorded.
You have a motion to?
Yeah.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Excellent. Do a quick roll call vote on approving the minutes from September 8th. Ms. Boardman?
Approve.
Ms. Hollander?
Aye.
Ms. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Stearns?
Aye.
Ms. Barker?
Aye.
Ms. Edelman?
Aye.
And Mr. Welch? The says aye. The minutes from 9/8 are approved unanimously by roll call vote. Marcia, could you
Get rid of the
get rid of the got it on the screen? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
We have already got it. All right, great. All right. I'd like to invite Marcia to give us her monthly update, a copy of which was emailed to each committee member. Marcia, you have the floor.
All right, just 1 minute. I wanna. All right. Oh. We have more participants than are shown. That's why I was.
Oh, okay.
Barbara Pike is also visiting, as am I, and Adrian Boardman is checking on her
Okay.
computer.
Right here.
So
Okay,
anyway,
good.
so the update. For the phase 2A and 2D, representatives, staff and residents of the various communities along the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail met at the Fowler Library in West Concord on September 15th. One of the agenda items was to reaffirm or to revise the common rules of the trail for use by all communities, so they are consistent along the entire trail, which was done, and that memo was sent out to the various representatives who attended. I think you've been provided with a copy of that, and we'll have a discussion about that later this evening. The safety committee reviewed it a week ago, Monday night, and I think we're recommending approval. And I'll rely on Deb Adelman to provide that update to you when we get to that item. For phase 2B, we had a construction progress meeting on Friday, the 21st. The Concord section of the trail from Com Ave to the bridge is complete, but they will not do a final inspection. We do have a walkthrough planned on November 1st with Mass DOT and with MIG Corporation to get a view of the work completed, just to be sure that there's nothing outstanding. Any damage that occurs over the winter will have to negotiate to have taken care of, but it is not a final. They did install the interpretive panel, which I encouraged them to do to make sure that that information was out and available to the public. I've been getting a lot of questions like, when is it going to be up? So I thought it would be good to have that in place. The cedar fence has been ordered for the Acton section of the trail, and we hope it will be delivered in the next couple of weeks, after which they'll begin installation, depending on how that goes. There may be time to get the top coat of asphalt down but the plants are going to close at Thanksgiving. So if we don't get it in by then, this will be continued for the spring. There's still some landscaping to be installed as well in front of the fence near the police horse barn. And so they don't have a final date in the spring, but it will be probably sometime before June. Then the phase 2C updates, the Junction Park short-term implementation plan was presented to the select board, at its October 3rd meeting. I've shared the presentation with all of you. The estimate for the work is approximately $28,000 with some funding available from currently available CPC funds. And I'll be seeking the additional funds through a CPA grant that would be, if approved, would be available of July 1st, 2023. That grant application to the CPC was for $50,000 submitted on September 16th. The site visit was conducted on September 24th, and I made a presentation to the CPC on October 18th. So that is available both on YouTube, and if people want the presentation, I can show them what I presented. And then the final meeting with the stakeholders interested in the Concord Reformatory, it was the first meeting, with the stakeholders interested in the Concord Reformatory Cemetery, met in early October, and we're going to be meeting the first Monday of each month going forward. I was asked to seek agreement from this committee to enter into a design contract for the work. An initial estimate was provided by GPI, the designer for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail in Concord, and that was for about $15,000. Again, CPC funds would be available for that. This may require obtaining additional quotes to meet requirements of the state's procurement laws 30B. And then for the last half mile, phase 2C and phase 2, it's actually officially phase 2D in Sudbury. The contract was awarded this fall. They anticipate completion in 2 years, and the contract amount was about was $10,518,738. Late this afternoon, I received an update from the project manager, Eamon Kiernan. The contract has been awarded. It was awarded September 30th to AA Will Corporation out of Stoughton, Mass, with a notice to proceed issued on the 13th of October. The surveyor has been on site setting the baseline. A construction schedule has not yet been submitted, but the first thing that will be happening is clearing and grubbing and removal of trees and branches that will impede construction of the trail. A construction kickoff meeting has not yet happened, but is expected soon. So I'm hoping I will be notified when that is scheduled. And then I continue to work with the town of Acton on the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism Wayfinding Grant. We've finalized the graphics that we want to see in Concord, and I expect sometime this fall the sign to be the wayfinding. One was for Giroux Park, and the other is going to be near the Neshoba Brook Bridge to have those installed. So you saw presentations of that this past summer.
Yep.
And that is my update for tonight.
Good questions from the committee? So Marcia?
I have a couple questions. Just for my own interest, do you know, did the contract come in at what was estimated approximately?
Below the estimate.
Below estimate.
Yeah, the estimate, it was in my last month's notes, and it was 11 million and change.
Okay. And in terms of construction staging, do we expect anything to be staged in Concord, like at Powder Mill Road, or will it be
I
coming?
have no idea.
don't
I
know
won't
that at
know
this
until
point.
we have the
Okay.
walkthrough.
It would be
and-
coming more in from Sudbury. We don't know that. Okay. So there could be some conceivable impact. Maybe. We don't know. In terms of if they're going to come in.
Oh, you mean
start-
like our vehicles gonna
Yeah,
be parked
vehicles,
on
are they gonna
Powder
park
Mill?
there?
They don't have access.
Yeah, from
They would
there.
have to do, I think they'll be getting access from Davis,
Some-
from Route 117. and coming-
117, more
yeah.
like, okay. At Giroux,
Because we have granted no easements And usually in order to access part of the trail, you have to have an access easement.
Okay,
So the town of Concord and as part of our portion of the contract did not seek any easements for this project.
okay. And at Giroux Park, I was over there the other day, and when there's now a driveway that goes into the parking lot. Is there going to be, there will be stop signs put at that driveway for vehicles?
Yes,
And there'll be a crosswalk painted or something to
Correct.
alert cyclists.
Yeah.
yes.
But the assumption, cyclists won't be instructed to stop right there. Okay,
Vehicles will be expected to
okay,
stop.
thank you.
I will make sure of it.
That might be worth, I think it would be interesting once we see what it looks like. It might be worth a further conversation just to make sure, because you're gonna have
Okay.
people whipping through there on their bikes probably. The November 1st walk on the site with MDOT and MIG, is that open to committee members?
No, it is not.
Okay. Guys are having a secret conversation. Okay, no worries. No worries. That's good. And the other question, I think it kind of follows on Rich's question. We don't know where they're going to start yet. They're going to start on the north side of
Correct.
Sudbury.
There's been
Okay.
no
Okay.
kickoff meeting.
Okay. All right. That's good. Other questions from the committee?
Marcia, is any of the wayfinding grant funds also in like conjunction with what the safety subcommittee is doing? Or these are just the signs that are like, hey, restaurants are this way, shops are this way, and any of the safety signs would be separate from that?
Yeah, there was no funding remaining to allow for safety signs, so that
Got
will
it.
be. And given the size of the signs, I'm rethinking that. I might look for something of a smaller scale, but similar with the 2 legs instead of the single post,
Okay,
but that's only 7 feet tall instead of 9 feet tall.
got it. Okay.
So I think that would be a little.
But
bit-
these are really more like those directional things. That
They were the long poles with the dragonfly on the top
Right,
and
right,
the,
right.
go this way. Here's
it.
Giroux
Right.
Park, here's recreation, here are the bathrooms. Wayfinding.
Got it. When will Giroux Park be open? Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, and I think you may want to table my comment, but I'll just say it now so that we have a placeholder. I was just driving by on Saturday, after a bike meetup at Ride Out, and I noticed that there was a fairly large sign at Junction Park that said, "We prioritize pedestrians," and the placement of the sign was such that it would absolutely cause damage to a biker who is attempting to ride in that area. So I think as we go forward with these discussions, we just have to start thinking about the relationship of this committee to other committees that have more control over the signage that these individuals, well-intentioned, are placing in the area.
I think that's if there are no other member questions.
I was gonna say, did you take a picture of the location to send
And
to
I
us?
was driving, but it's pretty obvious. It's a very, very large sign.
Right.
I thought they were green.
Yeah. Any other questions for Marcia from the memo? Then we'll move into committee business, which is the first item is Junction Park update and discussion. As Marcia mentioned, there was a meeting on October 3rd. Marcia presented the plan. I was there to make some comments based upon individually checking with each committee member about their thinking on a couple of the items on the plan. I'd like to reiterate, Marcia, the excellent work that you've done and thorough work to put this together. And so I think we should, I'd like to have the committee just kind of talk about this and just see if there's anything else that they want to say or do with regard to it. I have a particular item, which is with regard to the 4 planters in the middle of the path. And I think that's maybe where I want to start, just for a few minutes.
Would you like me to share at least the plan
Yes,
with everyone?
you can put it on the screen.
I'm going to try.
Yeah, okay. I happen to have my hard copy right here, but it would be useful to look at it. There you go.
So you're talking about
The four
Here,
planters, yeah, 1, 2,
here.
3, 4.
here and here,
Right.
not the ones that are
No, I think those
directing
are,
people.
no, I think those are, I think everything about this follows the spirit of what we had talked about when we came up with the JP10. That's a short-term one. But these 4 planters, I have some idea of how they kind of showed up here. And I think they're, in my polling of the committee individually, there are some questions. And I just think that it would be worthwhile to talk about it for a few minutes and then to deliberate about it and then see what we want to do. Does anybody have any other thoughts about this plan?
Would you like me to
think-
share why they ended up where they did?
Sure,
Okay,
thank you.
because I met with the Commission on Disability first, then
Yeah.
I met with you for second.
Yeah.
And then I met with the Concord Public Works. Aaron McCloskey is the Highway and Ground Superintendent responsible for plowing and for maintaining Junction Park. He is the one who said he would prefer to have the planters entirely on pavement, that having them, that they would kill the grass if they were placed on the grass, and would become a maintenance issue. When I met with the West Concord Green Thumbs, shortly after that meeting with Concord Public Works, they were adamant that it be on the pavement, that to physically narrow rather than visually narrow the pavement width from 13 feet down to what will be 10 feet wide, as people, if you were to go from the planter to the other side of the
Right,
pavement.
right.
The one that is in the center area where there is the intersection, the east-west, north-south intersection, right in the center here. The West Concord Green Thumbs were adamant that that was their intention. And I felt that rather than have a battle royale, I would put it on the plan. The intention here is to invite all representatives, stakeholders to a site visit once we have the planters in hand and physically place them and make a decision from there. So that was the thinking behind at least showing it, and we will invite people to participate in locating them and then move forward once they're in place. So that's the thinking.
That's how they get, right. And I think you navigated all of the different interest groups, I think, extremely well. When the committee had done it, I think it's thinking about, I don't want to speak for the whole committee, but my recollection is that we left it clear for a particular purpose. I think your idea of seeing what it looks like, may be a useful way to do it. My personal preference is that there would not be planters in there, that we try and go with what we had talked about as a group. But I understand the strong feelings that are there among different groups.
I'm also curious, if we take a step back, Marcia, can you summarize like how the meeting went to the select board? Because this is now the second time, right, that they've heard about this issue. The first was like the presentation that you and Richard had done and like conceptually what the plan was. And this was a chance to dive deeper to say, like, okay, now there's like actually a schematic. Were they overall in favor? Did they have questions? Did they wonder why there were slight differences from before? Or is it a straightforward?
I think I shared the same information that I've just shared with you.
Yeah, I'm just
And-
curious if
and
they had feedback, if they
The
had
feedback
comments.
was that they were in favor of this short-term solution, that they did, they thought that this was a good approach. They wanted to make sure that everyone who had an interest or was a stakeholder would be involved in locating the planters. I did get a question about how is it evaluated in the future? And that actually was CPC.
Right.
And I share with you, and I shared with the select board that night, that I have put a capital request in for the 2025 fiscal year, which would make money available in the summer of 2024 to hire an engineer who could look at the short-term solution, evaluate whether it is functioning as it should, and whether a long-term solution should be considered. And I have a preliminary estimate that the design for the alternative, the long-term solution, is in the realm of $50,000. So the capital improvement request was for $75,000. So that would be sufficient for the evaluation and even to go into design if necessary. And I see Deborah Adelman has her hand raised.
Deborah.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just lower my hand and go in video. So I just have a question. And forgive me if I should know the answer to this. Does this plan contemplate that bikers that are approaching the area would see a sign that would make it abundantly clear that they have to dismount from the time I'm going from when they're entering from the tracks, from that direction, you know, heading towards Commonwealth. So was it contemplated in this short-term plan that through signage, it would be abundantly clear to bikers that when you're in this Junction Park area, you must dismount. You can no longer ride your bike. Was that abundantly clear?
We
Changed the approach, I think. So rather than requiring someone to dismount and walk their bike, it was more the awareness that this is a shared multi-use space and that people had to act with caution.
Yeah.
So theoretically, if the park is clear, someone could bike through.
Yeah, that was the intent, Deb, was to change it from a punitive, do this, behave this way, to we're adults, this is a shared space. We're looking for you to act in the appropriate way.
And that's why I think there's some concern with that planter right in the middle, because let's say there's two people walking and a bike could otherwise clearly pass.
Yeah.
If you then have a planter there, you've almost made it
Yeah.
not safe to pass.
Right. And I think to be very open, the Concord Green Thumbs do not want anybody to be riding through. That's their position, as I understand it. And I've talked to the head of them, and there's, you know, some of them have strong feelings. And I know, Dorcas, you're a member of the Green
I was
Thumbs.
actually a bit dismayed at the selectmen's meeting when they claimed that people on this committee were only for the bikers.
Right. That was, yes. So
Especially since I'm not really a biker.
I've never biked on the trail. I walk on the trail with my kids. I watch them bike. I don't bike on the
I
trail.
have biked on
Yeah.
the trail because I felt like I should.
Mary Beth has her hand up.
yeah, Mary Beth.
Yes, some of the concern that I have is that I think it's going to cause pedestrian conflict. I mean, when you see that the kind of pedestrians that walk through there are pedestrians who walk very, very slowly, maybe an elderly person with a walker. And I'm trying to picture being a young person in a hurry to get over to, I don't know, the store or something,
11,
but
yeah.
get back to work, who feels kind of frustrated about because there's not enough room to really get around people. If you have, or for myself, even if I'm there in a wheelchair, being frustrated about being behind someone who's walking very slow and not having enough room to pass them or to have to audibly signal them that I just feel like it creates this congestion which could backfire on pedestrians, you know, not just the issue of biking through there, just walking through there. It seems to me it complicates things.
And Marcia, I want to recognize all the work you put in and trying to manage all the stakeholder wishes on this. So I also think it's important that we as a committee kind of say, you know, these are the parts we like. I mean, I'd like to tell the select board, we'd like to hold off on the planters until we see how the rest of the stuff works.
I think, but personally, I think it makes sense to get the planters first, because that's the only thing that is going to address the concerns of the West Concord Green Thumbs.
Right.
But they are lightweight, they can be moved. We will put them out before they're filled, so we can move them. And if we find that it is too narrow, as Mary Beth Rees is concerned about, we can talk to Public Works about getting a slab of slate or stone and putting it alongside and putting it half and half. And taking out some grass if that's, I was trying to be very minimalist in how we impact the existing park. And so that's why I felt that going with the planters to start with, having everybody out there to see what it means and what it will look like is probably the best way to get a sense of the space, of the size, of how it will work.
Right.
So it's, the planters themselves are about $500. They can be used at the other end of the parking lot, other end of the trail at Neshoba Brook if they don't work here. So I think that we will find use for them in different locations around town if this is not the ultimate solution.
So just a question, if the green thumbs hadn't been, were not as adamant about slowing things down, would we have the planters, those 4 planters?
Well, the other alternative that was suggested by Jennifer Brooke was to do plantings in the ground. But again, that requires a time period and maintenance and so forth. And the concern that was raised by Public Works is having things hanging over into the pavement might create a tripping hazard or another issue if it's not being maintained properly. And so I felt the planters would give you an immediate impact, immediate effect. You wouldn't have to wait for plantings to grow. You would have a lesser maintenance issue. I've reached out to the West Concord Green Thumbs for suggestions on materials, thinking grasses might be the least expensive and most maintenance or low maintenance. But we could also contract with Minuteman Arc to water the planters or
Right.
to maintain the plants for us
Now-
if the Green Thumbs don't.
My question was, if the green thumbs hadn't raised this as an issue, would the planters be in the plan?
Probably not.
Yeah, okay. So how does the committee feel about letting us try out the planters and see where we go?
I don't have an objection, but I do want to say for the record that I do believe that it would be to everybody's benefit if we are not sort of wishy-washy. And somewhere in any signage, it should say, we recommend and encourage all bikers to dismount. Because I do think that the narrowing is creating some risk, and to reduce liability, et cetera. I think we should just come out with a statement. So, I see the sign, I do, it's very nice, very sweet, but the truth is we want them to dismount.
Well, the truth is the signs already exist and nobody's dismounting.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is part of the discussion, Deb, that we had over time about the bike ped specialist from the Mass DOT said he had never seen such a small area with so many signs related to dismounting and so on. And I think fundamentally what we came up with for the short-term solution was to ask people to be thoughtful and respectful given the space. So if there's nobody in the park, then they should go through it in a safe manner. If there are people in the park, then they should take the appropriate action depending on what's there. If there are 50 people standing around, then you get off the bike. If there's one person walking through, you slow down and you go around them.
And I've seen the mom with the kids up front in the basket. She's on an e-bike. She has asthma. She cannot physically handle it otherwise, but for her to get off the bike and walk the
Yeah.
bike is not
Oh,
going to
yeah.
work.
Right.
The
Right.
person on the recombinant bike is not going to get off the bike and walk.
Right.
We're assuming that we're all on the upright bicycle. Mary Beth also has her hand raised again.
Okay.
Well, I think you're making the same point that I was going to make, and that is that not every rider can get off their bike. A person can't get up off of an incumbent bike and push it through. A lot of people who, I think when we had our survey and we collected data from the community, said for various reasons of balance or injury, they don't dismount easily. It's very difficult for them. So I think we've really gone over this a million times and we decided not to ask people to dismount.
That's helpful. That's very helpful. I'm just so concerned that the planters would then cause injury to those people, the recumbent bike or the others that Marcia mentioned. So that's my concern.
Yeah.
That's what I keep coming back to, is like revisiting like the principles that we spent time
Right.
going over and like the fundamentals of what we wanted our approach to be. And then the planters just seem to be in conflict with those things.
Right.
Like we wanted to create like an open shared space that allowed people to get to where they wanted to go as easily as possible. And I worry that we're circling back to a different safety issue now that we're adding something else
Right.
in there. So I'm happy to have like a site visit. I just worry that, is that going to then be the point that like we're physically pulling a planter back and forth because we can't agree where it goes. So I'm just
Right.
trying to figure out when we tackle the differing opinions here. Like, is it on site or is it something now to?
Well, I think that maybe what we can do is we can, perhaps one idea is to let the select board know that we have serious concerns about the 4 planters and that we're willing to see what they look like in place, but that the spirit of what we were trying to accomplish was somewhat shortcutted at the July meeting when after we presented the report, and Richard and I probably should have said something when we were there. They pushed to let's put things, let's do tactical urbanism, whatever it's called, and throw things in the middle of the path. I think, Marcia, again, you've had to navigate a very complicated stakeholder situation, and I get the feeling sometimes that the green thumbs feel ownership of the whole space, and that.
Oh, they do.
They do
They do. Dory Kehoe continues to insist that this was only a temporary accommodation. I sent an email to Bill Renault asking, who was the town engineer at the time, who conceived of this plan, bringing the trail in behind the Woods Hill Table Cafe and next to Club Car, and bringing people through the park. He said this was always the intention of Public Works.
Bring people
To bring people
Right.
through the park.
Right.
So I just, I've had
Are
to
there-
repeat it, and I've had other people say it in situations, and I've had to correct them.
Yeah.
No, this is the permanent situation. Unless this doesn't work
Right.
and we haven't continue to have an issue, at which point in time, the park will be redesigned to address the long-term solution.
Right. Yeah, go ahead.
Are there planters we could agree to? So it's not saying get rid of all of them, but I mean, the ones like along the top, we all agree
Yeah,
should be there,
all
right? 'Cause
agree
that's
should
like
be there, yeah,
shielding.
yeah.
And then even maybe some of the ones on the side, we could say like, okay, those,
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's maybe easier for us to
To see
say,
it, to
hey,
see-
let's get rid of that one in the middle, which really presents an obstacle, but let's keep the other ones
Right.
and see how we go.
I think let's hear what other members have to say.
But I know then it's like caving a little bit rather than tackling the issue at its head. So I don't know.
Again,
Well,
Mary Beth's hands
Yeah.
raised.
No,
Go ahead, Mary Beth.
I just find it kind of maddening that I think that people worked really hard on this committee to come up with perceived safety issues. They're not, we don't even know that they're real, right? But that there were perceived safety concerns, and we worked very hard and we bent over backwards. And now the very people that were so concerned have put these planters in a place that creates safety concerns.
Right.
It's just maddening to me. I mean, I just
That
want to.
summarizes the issue.
Yeah, I think it
Quite
does.
well,
And-
yeah.
And well, and I also think that the hidden message is, well, if you dismount, it won't be an issue. That's
Yeah.
Well, this will force people to dismount because there's someone walking towards you and there's a planter in front of you. You might not have another option. Yeah.
But, yeah. Dorcas, any comments?
I hate the planters.
Okay.
Did that get recorded?
Yes, it did. Sam, any comments or thoughts from you?
Nothing I'm thinking here.
Okay, all right, just want to make sure
Yeah.
you felt like you had a chance to have an input. Deb, I know you, Mary Beth and Dorcas represent the safety subcommittee, and there is a bit of an overlap here on this issue. I do think we should make our position, I think, clear to the select board. And I also feel like we shouldn't have Marcia in the middle of this conversation with the green thumbs. And, you know, there's something about bikers are bad, right? Walkers are good. The Bruce Freeman Rail Trail is about bikers. You know, there's kind of, I think, this view of who we are and what we stand for, which is incorrect. So anyway, I'm just thinking out loud.
I think I tend to agree with Nat, the initial and other folks that let's see what happens without the planters. But when Marcia suggests that, you know, we take a look at the planters being there, that gets me to the point where if I ever have to rearrange something in my house, I need to rearrange it. I can't I can't just measure it and
And
say,
if you
oh,
have
is it going
20
to
people
work
there
over
doing
there?
it, that's gonna.
I
be
move it over there
Yeah.
and, you know, oh, obviously that doesn't work. We're not going to make that change. So get some of these planters. We know they can be used, but I would say we hold off whether we think the planters are a good idea until we see it there. I personally think it's cluttering up the space. I don't think it's going to enhance the aesthetics of the space. I think it'll, if anything, detract from the wonderful work that the Green Thumbs have done in this space. You know,
Right.
but that's just my opinion. But until I see them there, it's going to be hard for me to know. What it
Yeah.
is. So if are these planters arriving forthwith?
I
They'll
have
be
not ordered them yet.
okay, but they could be
I'm
here
ordering
short.
them next week, so we'll
They can be
see.
here fairly quickly, and we could do it before
I
it
hope.
snows or something.
So I see Sam has raised his hand.
Sam,
Yeah, just two additional comments. I've been struck with the scenarios around the recumbent bicycle user or the bicyclist that can't dismount as easily. And just trying to think about what you do with that, and maybe we're trying to design for the sort of worst case scenario versus the most common one. I think the other question or observation I have is at the south end of the park, presumably bicyclists are stopping, if not dismounting with the road. And so I'm not sure, like, just again, how to weigh these different factors, or how that might influence our choice of where to locate the planters, or you know, move forward with the overall approach.
okay.
Is it appropriate to make a motion to inform the select board of our,
Totally appropriate.
yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word it. Like to make a motion that the Bruce Freeman Advisory Committee should inform the select board that the latest proposed plans are not in keeping with our original proposal.
I think that's a fair statement.
And I don't know if it's up to us to negotiate this or if the select board can help
Well,
figure out who the ultimate decision maker is, right? We're just advising. I don't know who at the end of the day actually makes
Terry's
the
not here
decision.
today.
I don't know who at the end of the day says yay or nay to
The
the
town
planters.
does.
Select
Yeah.
board are meeting tonight,
Yeah.
so that's why she's not
yeah,
here.
the town is the one that has the final say in what they do. We can recommend. So I think a motion, as you phrased it, a motion to
inform the select board that the latest proposal is not in keeping with our conceptual design.
that a specific part of the
Yes,
latest proposal, the four planners in the middle, is not in keeping with all the work that we've done.
And actually detracts from our like key principles.
Detracts from our key principles, and may in
And
fact,
this- yeah.
Mary Beth, go ahead.
Well, I think we were very careful when we talked about design, not to interfere with the aesthetic of the park being open and welcoming. And I think this does interfere with the aesthetic of it.
I think it is too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Detracts from the
Remember
aesthetic.
Being Plums, I'm always down there saying, no more signs, no more benches, no more things. We just want green.
Yeah.
I do this all the time as a member of the Green Thumbs. Like I say, just think we want green.
Mhm.
And so we're not making green again. We're making more stuff.
Mhm.
Richard, do you get most of the wording?
Not really. He could fire me.
I like
I'm
that.
not gonna fire you. We're not gonna fire you.
I'm working
Appreciate
on
your
it.
work. So it detracts from the aesthetics. It's not in keeping with our, the principles of our, of the original design or of our recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we should say it poses a safety hazard, or it could actually increase a safety concern.
Increases safety concerns. Okay. So I think the motion should be, and Marcia, I also want to say, I know you've been managing across these stakeholders. I think one of the things that we need to do as a committee is suggest that we should have a conversation with the Green Thumbs directly, so that you don't have to carry our water for us. If that,
Yeah,
If
that,
you're
I mean,
okay.
I think that makes sense. Sorry, Marcia, I know you want to respond, but I don't, my comment is not about Marcia's role, because I think that she is just incredibly valuable and helpful. I can't comment on whether it's inappropriate. So I will just say that as part of our charge, I do think that this committee should speak directly with the Green Thumbs. If in some small way we can seek to understand some of their concerns and perhaps help them understand that we don't represent one group or another, that it's just all about safety.
I think there are, I think many on the Green Thumbs would understand that. I think there's some very strong feelings among a limited number of people on the Green Thumbs, and that's, I think, the noise that we're dealing with. So in the interest of time, a motion, that we make a motion that maybe the co-chairs, maybe you and I can kind of draft we make a motion that the co-chairs inform the select board that the four planters.
Yeah, this is what I have. If we said the motion is made that, and this is just to go to the select board, that the proposed planters are not in keeping with the principles of the committee's proposed design. Oh, I'll just say the planters.
Planters, that's right.
Detract from the aesthetics of the park and create a potential safety hazard.
Sounds good. So
Second.
is that, no, I think we have enough of the.
And the
of the word.
motion is
Is to have the co-chair send a
have the
letter
co-chair send a letter to the select.
that
board, right?
reflects what you just
Right.
talked about. Do we need to say it again just to get it really?
So, and you made the motion, Rajan, right?
She made a motion.
Yeah.
I seconded
Okay.
it.
You seconded, okay.
So let's have a roll call vote on that motion. Wording to be finalized by the co-chairs. Deb? Are you, we're voting on the motion?
I
Aye, okay.
agree.
I,
Richard?
Aye.
Dorcas?
Aye.
Is John here? No, he's not. Sam?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The motion is passed unanimously by roll call vote. Thank you. Next item are the cones, and I guess this sign that Marcia mentioned, or that was mentioned by Deb.
Deborah.
Yeah, Deb. I was riding 2 weeks ago and came along the path behind the Club Car Cafe, and there were 3 cones across the middle of the path. I think someone else mentioned that they've seen that as well, and I don't know who's doing it.
Is that the intersection, like within the park?
No, it's right before. So as you go across the tracks and you ride a little bit, and as you start to turn, as you get within 50 feet of the turn at the club car,
Got it.
the 3 cones are sitting right there across the trail, clearly to stop people from going on the trail. I don't know if anybody else has seen that on the trail.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Can you point that out on the map?
Yes. Then you can move your mouse to it.
Yeah.
So it's right here.
Oh, it's back here.
Yeah, it's right here. Before it actually takes the corner, so it's right here.
Okay, so it's right next to the building?
Yes, right next
Okay.
to the building,
Oh,
right there.
And Mary Beth, is that where you saw them as well?
Yes, it is, yeah.
all right.
Okay.
Are they still there now?
I don't know. I haven't,
Yeah.
I've been in Croatia, so I haven't had a chance to see it. But that and the sign that Deb, you mentioned, it feels like people are,
And is that in the path here, Deb? Or is it on the grass?
where was the sign you saw when you were driving by? It must be near 62.
Correct. It's right by 62.
It was
Okay.
out here
Correct.
on the
Okay.
sidewalk?
It was in the, so you would cross 62 and you have the 4 cement blocks, right? And it was immediately in front of those.
Oh, the concrete bollards.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
I've seen that sign too, and actually one day it was placed in a way that I could not, from my recumbent bike. I can't remember now if I was on my bike or in my wheelchair, but either one is the same thing. I couldn't reach around it to hit the signal button. It was like blocking the signal button.
It was out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I actually saw a sign there that was advertising something else in front of that,
All right.
the signal button. So I guess I raised this. I don't know what we do about that, but I wanted to bring it up as something that's there that.
Well, unfortunately, those are movable signs.
Right.
So, until we put in the permanent signs, we're sort of SOL.
And the cones, I assume, were someone trying to send their own message to
Right.
people.
That could have been Ron, for all we know, the
Right.
Cup Cart Cafe
Right,
owner.
right. So I think we should just keep an eye out for it. If we see it
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
let's just, take a photo of it and send it into Marcia.
That's the best thing you could do, because then I can take it and show it to Public Works and say, this doesn't belong here.
Mhm.
Can you make sure that it doesn't happen? Or do you know who did this?
Right.
And go from there.
Mm, yeah.
But until I know where it is specifically or have a picture, it doesn't, I can't do follow-up.
Okay, that sounds good. All right,
So, thank you.
thank you. All right, so I'm going to bring the Junction Park piece to a close and go to the next piece of business, which is a Concord Prison Outreach. And I'm not sure who had this item on the agenda. Do we remember, Adrian?
Marcia.
Marcia did. Okay.
Just because I've sought CPC funding for Bruce Freeman related projects in the past. And this committee has provided letters of support. Typically, I would ask for a new letter of support for the current application, but in the past, they have been for little projects along the way. I thought it would be best to come back to you to make sure that you are okay with me proceeding to hire a designer to work on the Concord Prison Outreach Project as a committee. I know small groups have said yes, but the committee itself has not.
So it would be a motion to recommend that we approve
To seek design consultant
design consultants. Okay.
to implement it's envisioned as a contemplative space at the base of the Concord Reformatory Cemetery.
Okay. And we'll see if our scribe or I caught it correctly. You want to
And
try?
that approval would be in the form of a letter to show support, right? So
Or
this,
just a vote.
Yeah.
oh, if you don't need a letter to show that, okay.
A motion for the committee to recommend seeking funds for, oh shit, I forgot. Did you get that first part?
Motion to seek funding for, or just seek
Design consultant.
seek design consultants.
Seek
Right,
funding for design consultants.
You
funding.
have the funds.
yeah,
Okay.
From Community Preservation
Okay.
Committee.
Oh, we do, okay.
passed.
Okay,
So
Oh, got it,
you-
got it,
what
got
I'm
it.
looking for is for you to
To-
authorize me to use that
Okay.
okay.
to get
How about
design.
So we
motion
have
to-
funds that were awarded to Bruce Freeman,
Yes.
and then
last year.
it's using those funds for this purpose. Got
How
it.
about if we say motion to contract with design consultants?
Okay.
to-
Using
To,
approved.
what do we
CP.
call that? And
To
they're,
implement the contemplative space.
well, they're
at
not
the-
implementing the space, they're just making the
The
design
design for the access to
Okay.
the space for Concord Christian.
to design access to a contemplative space at the Concord Reformatory Cemetery. Is that good enough?
So read it again.
Perfect.
I'm still writing it.
Okay, right. Okay, thank
Two
you.
motions in one meeting? Come
I
on.
know.
I
Well,
should
have a
get paid
bottle-
overtime.
I have
for
a bottle
this.
of whiskey in my, on my bike pack, so
Okay,
that was recorded, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
it's all recorded, yeah, whole life is recorded, yeah. So the committee agrees to authorize or just authorize Marcia to contract with design consultants to provide access to, well, design consultants to design access, I guess. Design access for a contemplative space at the Concord Reformatory Cemetery.
I think we just say using CPC,
Existing.
existing CPC funds.
Okay.
This is really watching the sausage being made. Okay, and then when you're
I should have
ready.
had a draft for you. Sorry.
Then when you're-
Next time.
the next
Right,
one.
yeah.
And isn't it designing the space, not designing access to the space, but designing the space itself, right?
Well, it's designing the access from the existing rail.
From the
trail
rail trail. Okay, I see. All right,
to
I,
this location.
Okay.
So
okay, I get it. Thank you.
Okay.
When you're ready, Richard. you can
Oh,
make a
really?
motion.
Okay. Okay, motion to contract with design consultants to design access for a contemplative space at the Concord Reformatory Cemetery utilizing existing CPC funds.
Seconded. Roll call vote, discussion?
I'm just adding from the rail trail.
Okay. I will now take a roll call vote on the motion to, as described by Mr. Hollander, access to the contemplative space. Ms. Edelman,
Agreed.
Ms. Boardman,
Agreed.
Mr. Hollander,
Aye.
Ms. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Stearns,
Aye.
Ms. Barker,
Aye.
Mr. Welch votes aye. The motion is passed unanimously. I can't wait for that thing to be complete. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Next item of business is a summary of the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Forum regarding signage. And I think this is going to bleed into, Deb, or flow into, probably bleeds probably the wrong term to use, flow into your safety subcommittee report out. I just want the committee to know that I passed the copy of the letter that was sent by
Charlene Hempel.
Carleen Helpel, thank you, to the towns, suggesting the wording for new universal language across all parts of the rail trail. And Deb, why don't you talk a little bit about it as part of your report out for the committee, but we're going to want to, I think, come up with a motion at some point to either approve or not approve the wording that we can pass on to the selectmen. It'll be a third motion.
Okay, sure. So we met as the safety subcommittee, and I want to say thank you to my committee members, Dorcas Miller and Mary Beth Barker, who were really, their leadership was just so helpful in this effort and central to it. We discussed the 8 universal rules that were proposed at the multi-town meeting. And our final conclusion was that we agreed with the 8, but that we thought that the first 4 should be larger and the second 4 were of less import. And that we would then pass this conclusion along to this committee. Obviously, we have a lot more details, and we had quite a lengthy discussion, but that was our summary, that we agreed that the first 4 should be most prominent and larger, and the second 4 would have lesser prominence.
So just to be clear, the Carlene's letter says one sign in which the first 4 rules are posted on the top of the sign in larger print and the last 4 in smaller print beneath. Is that what you're saying is okay?
No, we're saying that we agree that the first 4 should be larger. How, whether, and to what extent the smaller 4 should be promulgated, we left up to this committee. For example, we could agree that those additional 4 could be on that same at the same time, or we said that those additional 4 could be at lesser frequency. They could be at a kiosk, for example. That's what we concluded.
Okay. So if the friends who are paying for the signs have offered to pay for the signs for towns to install, if they happen to create signs with all 8 of these, but the 4 first ones are bigger, the second ones are of a lesser size, if that was all they provided, would that be okay as long as there were enough signs spread along the trail?
Will we have any ability to look at drafts of the signage?
I'm sure we would. I think that in the end, the towns have to kind of do what they need to do. You know, the font that they use, the actual size, and so on. I'm sure are governed by the regulations, and the Friends is just going to pay for it. I'm not sure how, you know, if how useful it is for us to say, you know, to try and change these 8. The idea was, let's get one sign. I mean, this is what the old one looks like. Let's have one sign, and what they proposed, I think what the town is looking for from us is, yep, this is good enough. This is a good enough approach to a universal sign on the trail.
Well, I think they had 3 options, right? Didn't they say like feedback was around, do you have one sign in which all 8 are posted, have one sign in which the 4 are posted in larger print. So it sounds like she's saying she's maybe in favor of number 2
Okay.
or number 3.
Debbie's.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
That's right. And what was option number 3, Adrian?
Have
Option
2
number
different signs.
2 different signs.
Yeah.
Which in a lot of ways, well, I don't want to interject yet, sorry.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I think that we just were having discussion in Junction Park around how there's been like so many signs and people don't know what to focus on, and no one ends up really following any rule because there's
Yeah,
just like so much noise and clutter with the signs. But I think if these are the ones that everyone's aligning on, or like the important rules, we should just have them together. And I think there's some value in having some larger, some smaller, because like maybe wearing a helmet isn't as.
yeah. And I think what
But
we
so-
also, so and again, I would encourage Mary Beth and Dorcas to comment if they have any other comments, but we are in agreement that the first 4 should be larger. They're very important. The smaller 4 can be on the same sign, but, you know, I don't know what the size of the sign is going to be, hence why we said, you know, we will be available if they want to talk about it. And so we have to continually be open to the likelihood of more than one place for awareness of rules. The trail is absolutely it. It's the most important place. I absolutely agree. But if you're going to have a sign that has 4 principles, 4 rules very large, and then 4 smaller, it just, to me, it just says you need to have other places too, which are less important, whether that is at a kiosk or what have you. So in terms of getting back to the multi-town, I would say, yes, we agree with all 8 of the principles. We agree the first 4 should be very large and the second 4 should be smaller. And we would just ask as a side note that we continue the dialogue about how, what other mechanisms are available to promote all the rules.
So if we had to choose among the three, right? One sign, 8 rules posted with a QR code. Number 2 is one sign, 4 big, 4 small, but all on the same sign. And then option 3 that was suggested for review was have 2 different signs. One with the 4 rules posted frequently and another sign with 8 rules, but only at trailheads. Which one do you think which of the 3 did the safety committee like the most?
Mary Beth, Dorcas,
I don't like 3.
Yes, I think we, I agree with Dorcas that that day, neither one of us liked 3, maybe all of us didn't like 3. And I think that we did not, what I recall is that we were making a recommendation that we would, that we would make a recommendation to accept all of the rules, and that we liked the first 4 to be more visible, larger than the second 4. That as for the signage, we would just continue to advocate with the committee for the signage that works the best. We didn't really have, I don't think we really drew any.
yeah, we didn't get into the weeds. So I think
don't
it's
think we-
option 2. I
Yeah.
do think it's option 2.
Okay.
I think that's the way we would leave it. And I appreciate everything that people have said. You know, it's clutter and noise.
I appreciate Adrian pointing out to me that there were 3 options. So.
Well, at least that's how I read it. Maybe
No,
it
you're-
wasn't.
Yeah.
No, I think
Yeah.
that's
I
right.
think it was, I mean, I was at that meeting too, and I think the notion was that, yeah, those 4 are the ones that you're gonna see on a regular basis. The other ones at, primary entrance points, there might be 2 signs.
So that's option 3 you're talking
Right,
about.
and I think that was how I was understanding the idea but that would be very selected places that would have that.
Right.
Where you had an existing kiosk or something, you might put those extra
Yeah.
signs up too.
You have
Right.
Barbara with her hand
Yeah.
up.
I mean, I do like option 3, but I appreciate the sentiment about noise.
Yeah.
And if we really think that we only have sort of one chance to get at people, I understand that.
Barbara Pike, you have your hand up, which we can't see, so please.
Okay, yeah, so I hope that you'll consider the issue of sign pollution.
Yep.
And just how effective it's going to be to have twice as many signs. And please also consider that we're going to be buying signs for 7 towns.
Yep.
And
So option 2 is what you're thinking.
well,
Barbara?
what I'm thinking is that, yes, we offered to buy the signs, but
We'd like 1,000
Not when
signs.
each town have.
I think if a town wants, maybe we would offer to buy, well, of course, different lengths and all, but if you want 20 signs, you might have to pay for some of them.
Yeah, got it. No, I understand. And we really appreciate the Friends making an offer to buy it. We don't want to abuse your offer.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Barbara, do you know how big the sign is going to be, or that's not decided yet?
It has to be at least 2 feet wide
2 feet wide, okay.
because we're not taking the posts down.
Right, got it. No, that's good. Okay, that's good. All right. So if nobody has any other, is there any other discussion or questions on this?
Well, I would say only one thing, that is that the current sign has 10 things on
Yeah,
it.
we're not doing that.
And we're going down to 8, so we're already making it bigger and more visible.
And less wordy if
And less
you
wordy,
compare the
yeah.
two.
Less wordy.
Yeah.
So can I suggest a motion that who did we tell, Marcia?
Well, I think the request was that the various, whoever the final decision maker is, and in this case, I believe it is the select board,
Right.
that you would be making a recommendation to the select board
Okay.
on which sign would make the most
Option
sense.
2. I think,
Um,
yeah.
I just realized that Terry Ackerman was very interested in having more than just this committee weigh in. She thought maybe the Transportation Advisory Committee or maybe Concord Public Works or Public Works Commission might want to. So I should probably relay this information to them as well, and so that they can
Right.
also provide input to the select board.
So we'll make the motion is for us to make a recommendation to the select board that option 2 feels like the right one, or is the one that the committee supports. And then whatever you need to do and the town needs to do, you'll do. I make a motion that the committee recommend to the select board that we support option 2 in Carleen Heppel's letter.
I just,
Can I have a second?
Do you want
Second.
that language? Put it up again.
Richard's doing the language right now. Any discussion?
You've got it.
okay.
All right, we've got it. Then let's do a roll call on that. You okay, Richard? Do you have down what you need?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second it while you're on.
Oh, Mary Beth beat you to it. Thank you, Mary Beth. Ms. Edelman,
Agree.
Ms. Boardman,
Approve.
Hollander,
Aye.
Ms. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Stearns,
Aye.
Ms. Barker,
Aye.
Mr. Welch, aye. The motion passes unanimously. We are cranking today. Okay, where's my agenda? Agenda.
Agenda?
Oh, missed my agenda. Oh, here we go. I got it. Thank you. Next item of business is the safety subcommittee report out. Ms. Edelman, would you like to add anything to your report on the safety subcommittee?
Just a couple comments. Again, I know I said this before, but my fellow committee members have been incredibly helpful to keep this a very broad focused initiative where we really are in fact thinking about the safety of all of the users of the rail trail. So I just wanted to make that comment. Besides the content that we've just discussed, namely the signs for to make recommendations back to the select board through this committee, and which was just motioned, we also talked about the principles. And that was really one of the key objectives of the safety subcommittee, is to get a better handle on what do we think that the principles should be for the safety subcommittee. You'll see this in the minutes that will be published pursuant to the requirements on the Concord website when they are posted. But just again, give you the sentiment was that the principles would include courtesy, common sense, care, personal responsibility, and welcoming language in formulating and communicating rules of safety. So I think we were successful in that first charge, which was to think about principles. We will continue to discuss speed limit. We have not completed that discussion. I will say that I continue to read about the topic, and it's a very important topic. There are a number of resources that are available to us, and we'll continue to avail ourselves of it. And then we also talked about how safety concerns could be raised, and I think that's an item on today's agenda as well. But that is something that will be very important to us. So I think in conclusion, what you'll see when you read the minutes is that the principles have been recommended, they were motioned, and the scope of the committee will be to continue to advocate for things like what a speed limit looks like in the context of a rail trail. The scope will include how to advocate for safety concerns resolution and reporting of incidents. And then thirdly, the scope will include the exploration of making recommendations for and reacting to proposals regarding safety awareness. So I think we've made significant progress. We are going to be meeting again in a couple of weeks, and we'll take the input from this meeting and take that on to our next.
First, I'd like to thank all three members of the subcommittee and Deb for your leadership on it. Do you feel you have clarity it seems like you do. Do you have clarity around kind of what you want to tackle?
I want to hear from my fellow committee members. I think it's almost like, I'd liken it to, you take something and you pour it in a funnel, right? And does it come through? And so I think we almost need a use case. When we had, for example, this week, or 2 weeks ago, the question of, there was an injury and how is that to be reported? What is our role? What is our job? And so as we get these discrete situations, I think we'll start learning about, is that something that our committee needs to react to? Is there another group that's already in place? Maybe we just sort of take a step back and holistically make recommendations such as include reporting avenues on the town's website for potential safety issues concerning the rail trail, things like that. So I think we have clarity, but I think we have to have discrete situations where we can comment on.
Okay. Dorcas or Mary Beth?
I think the thing that keeps popping up on the safety committee, and we need to tackle this on this committee, is e-bikes. And it's popping up in some of the correspondence that our chairman has received.
Yeah.
And it's probably something we really have to tackle soon.
Yeah, this is e-bikes, I think is the elephant in the room, the thing you're trying to squeeze through the funnel at some point. And it's also, I think it's a challenge and for all the towns in the sense that whatever we come up with regard to a policy in e-bikes, if it doesn't align with at least what the other towns are doing, it
They have
becomes,
to all align.
yeah,
It's
because-
it's a multi-town.
Yeah.
and it's also a highly emotional topic
Yes.
as we've already seen on, from just correspondence. So,
And I just want to remind the members of the committee here, as well as those from the public, that I do data for a living. I'm a little bit involved in technology, and I believe that e-bikes will be ubiquitous in about 18 months, that you no longer will be able to distinguish a bike from an e-bike. You'll just simply go to your hardware store, you'll get a battery and affix it to your regular bike, something like that. Think about it like, the Steve Jobs environment. We're all thinking in one dimension and it's just going to get flipped. And so I think we have to continue to, as our faithful chairman reminded us, think about the behavior and not the technology, because the technology is going to be ubiquitous. And it does get back to then we have a narrow rail trail. It's very narrow compared to others. And we have to think about the safety. And so it's not about e-bike. It's really about behavior.
yeah.
Was there any mention of e-bikes during the multi-town, like Friends of Bruce Freeman meeting, or that was,
Mentioned, but intentionally not talked about.
right, okay.
It was sort of a whole nother.
And I, for one, have asked Carlene already to set up another meeting soon
Yeah.
across the towns to talk
Do we-
about e-bikes.
Deb, do we know the status of the state legislature
Yeah.
passed something? And it was, I'm not clear what it was they passed.
Yeah, it's class 1 and class 2 are now, considered a bike, being, very,
Right.
So class 3 is still not. And what that means is it always has to be pedal assist.
Right.
That's allowable to be considered a bike. But once you use a device that you don't need to pedal, that's no longer considered a bike. It's considered a motor vehicle.
According to legislation, right.
Okay.
Right. And
Is
I
that
think
your understanding, Marcia, too? So it has to be a pedal assist
Yeah.
bike.
But then there's the stand-up razor that is
Oh.
electric powered.
Or there's the ball.
Scooter, right.
Or the ball.
I'm starting to see those here. I see,
Yeah.
when I was in
Yeah.
California last year, I saw a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see them here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every morning I pass somebody who's riding up from West Concord up the Losbrook Hill. It's like, how does he do
On a,
that?
on a.
Yeah.
On a razor.
I mean,
Electric.
are you talking about a boosted board?
Oh, yeah, he's not doing anything. He's just riding.
Yeah, I mean, I am a mother of a innovative son who was on a boosted because he followed a blogger from California and he got a boosted almost 10 years ago. And he used to boost it to his high school and it created such an uproar. You know, so y'all, if there's any parents on this call, you can appreciate that. My son was completely safe, but it was technology changing. And that's, I think, what we have to realize is technology is always going to be ahead of the law. So the only thing that's going to hold us in good stead is behavior. And how do we want to communicate behavior? How we don't have the ability to reinforce behavior, but we should take that absolutely to the multi-town. So it's not about e-bike, it's not about, you know, boosted, it's not about scooter, it's about behavior.
So I think that we also need to keep in mind that there are stakeholders who think about the technology as a threat, and that while I think we can agree that it's about behavior, not the device, there's going to be a group of people who are, it's all about the device. I don't care what you say about behavior. We've got to regulate the device. So this is just, it's going to be a complicated, somewhat chaotic conversation, I think. And you know, I'm looking at the state committee to kind of do some of the heavy lifting around the issues, but as a committee, I think it's going to make Junction Park look like a walk in the park in some ways, and
Well,
we need to be prepared.
And it was clear at the multi-town meeting that the police force doesn't enforce anything on rail
Yeah.
trails. So
Right.
if
Yeah.
e-bikes were, you know, to somehow, we want, you know, to enforce something, we would need to have probably some kind of
Right.
legislative thing where they could give tickets to people who were breaking the rules on a rail trail. One other safety related thing I think worth considering is the whole issue of whether you have a center line. Because some towns do, some don't. Some might perceive that as, well, that helps you stay to the right. Others would say, well, now it looks like a road. It doesn't look like a walking situation. But I know some towns have center lines, some don't. It might be worth just considering that. And I can
It's
see
a very
both.
good point.
It keeps you to the right,
Yeah.
but then it looks like a road.
So,
I know Marcia said it was intentionally not done,
Intentionally
right? Because
not
people
put
wanted
in,
it to
right.
look as,
right.
I think they add the center line as you approach intersections
Yeah,
to
right,
clearly
I saw
define.
that.
do we have a sense of like Sudbury, like at what point do we know like the nitty gritty of like their scope? Like is their
They're
trail gonna have
put
a center line?
in or
I
not?
don't
We don't
know. You probably could look at the plans.
Yeah,
Review
I'd
the
just be
plans.
curious, like if that starts to happen, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, somebody's got center lines on Bruce Freeman, right?
So this will be a topic for the safety subcommittee, as looking at the center line, because I think something you said, Deb, about education. I think a center line in some sense is an education, right? It's an education moment for someone to you know, stay on one side versus the other. But I think these are great topics to keep the three of you busy until you scream stop.
And I think that's, if there is a question, that is the question. How will topics get funneled to the safety subcommittee?
Well, we just gave you a couple already, e-bikes, you're kind of leading the charge on that.
It's
And the safety center line, I think the reporting one that you mentioned, I think is, I think we have to have more conversation with the town, right? It made me think we should probably have not an incident report, but a place on the webpage, people can actually say, I've got a comment, or I want to note something, or I want to report something.
Well, and I would suggest that at the kiosks, that should be very clear.
Yeah.
For your safety, here is a link, have a QR code, have a website, whatever you want to do. I think that's very important.
And I think that needs to be coordinated with the towns, the other towns as well. I mean, so the Friends, I think, are a great link for us. Thank you, Barbara.
I think Marcia has her hand up, by the way.
Marcia, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I think you will already have Aaron McCloskey on the Friends website. He is the Public Works, Highway and Grounds Superintendent, and he is the person who will go out and take care of physical things that are out there.
Right.
Ron Holsinger is the town's safety officer. He is the officer who responds to accidents. There is posted at every trailhead For an emergency, call 911. So I don't know what else or who else or where else you want to send people, because those are the two people who can respond.
And we don't want to take on the work of answering emails about things. So I think we need to be careful about how much work we take on as a committee,
Mhm.
other than to make recommendations to the town. So what you're saying is we already have two places where people can have things dealt with,
Mhm.
and we should just remind people that that's where they can go.
And people have come to these committee meetings before when they've had
Right.
comments, or they want to report an incident, or so
Like-
people are finding us.
Like the woman driving on the trail.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. Any other items from the safety subcommittee? I think this item E, we already covered the review of the safety rules. So I think we're good. I'd like to move to the meeting schedule for November, December in 2023.
Yes, so we are proposing, given that this October meeting shifted by a couple of weeks, we're looking to better space out our November meeting, so then it falls better in line with our December meeting. So we're proposing, so right now, the Bruce Freeman Advisory Committee has a meeting scheduled for November 3rd, which is next Thursday, which I think is relatively quick for us to
Yeah.
reconvene. So we're recommending that we reschedule our November meeting by 1 week to November 10th. And then that would allow us to keep our existing December meeting on the 1st. Because we worry that if we push it any further into December, people start to take vacations and it bleeds into holidays. So I guess we're just looking for a sense of, would committee members be available to join a meeting on November 10th in place of our November 3rd meeting?
And what day of the week is that?
It's still a Thursday,
Still
so just
Thursday.
pushing it out by 1 week.
Okay, yeah, that would be fine by me.
Okay. And we'll probably meet, anybody else, any other issue for those two dates?
I'm not sure about it. I think it falls on the same day as the Disability Commission meeting, and when that happens, it's always, I have to try to take turns about which meeting, and I don't do both. So.
Okay, that sounds good, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
All right, so we will do the 10th and the 1st.
Yep,
10th
so
of
we'll do
November,
November
the
10th,
1st.
and
Okay.
then, have December
December
1st. And both of those, Heather from the town was able to book the second floor conference room on Kai's Road. So again,
Here,
we'll have
right.
it here. So we'll have a hybrid meeting for those that want to join remotely or come in person. We've also been working on the logistics to plan out our meeting cadence for 2023. And I think we all agree there's some discussion at our last meeting, what days of the work was best for people. I think everyone pretty unanimously agreed that Thursdays remained best. So we're going to propose a meeting schedule of the 4th Thursday of every month. And we'll make sure the exact dates get published and reserved to everyone. But again, just a heads up for people, it'll probably, I think right now we're the 3rd Thursday.
No, we're the first
The
Thursday.
first
Oh,
Thursday.
we're the first now.
Yeah,
So it'll move to the 4th Thursday of every month. And again, that'll allow us to have this conference room in the building here. And then I guess we'll continue hybrid meetings.
And we'll probably have to play with November and December of
Yeah.
this year, yeah.
Yeah.
Which we'll do.
So keep a lookout for that. But if you want to start blocking days in your calendar, yeah, we'll send out the specific dates once we have them.
Does that work for
That's
everyone?
it.
Mhm.
Okay, any correspondence or public comments? Who do we have? I think Barbara's
Is
our
Barbara
public.
still on?
Barbara's still on.
Okay, I have, this could have come up at any moment, but
Yeah.
I was driving through Leominster yesterday, and there's the new rail trail, the Twin City Rail Trail. And it's got this beautiful sign that says Twin City Rail Trail
On the bridge.
on the bridge, built into the bridge virtually. I noticed the Bruce Freeman sign that went up, which, because it was put on, the roadway, the bridge is at an angle. The sign's at an angle, so you can't really see it in a normal way. I know it was, I assumed that the fancy sign was part of the contract for that rail trail. I don't know if it's worth it, Barbara, but thinking about if you take a look, go out and look at the sign, whether a bracket could be put on just to make it so it's readable, more
You mean straight-
apparently
straight
readable,
perpendicular
straight to
to
the
the
road, to the highway, rather than looking off to the side.
That sounds like a change order for the
It could be,
contractor.
I have a ratchet, you know, I mean, whatever.
They're not even gonna consider that
Okay.
request.
Marcia, would you be bothered
I'll
if
even
Richard
go
went and fixed
there,
it?
but-
Okay, all right.
Barbara, it's up for you and I will meet some night on the full moon and take care of it.
Okay,
Okay, well, I did raise my hand because I wanted to point out that the Friends paid over $2,000 to have those two signs installed. And
Okay.
thank
I'm not quite sure how it wound up to be $2,000, but
It did.
so I doubt that the Friends would really entertain incurring
Yes.
more expense for the two signs.
Okay.
Barbara, thank you for having the Friends do that. We appreciate it.
Well, we had offered to buy the signs and then we were presented the bill for the installation and, you know, whatever.
A lesson learned.
Don't offer.
Don't, no, get a price first, right, but thank you. I don't mean to make light of it. I think I
No.
really appreciate the,
No, I mean,
What the Friends
yeah,
do.
I'm not making light of it either.
any other comments?
I guess I'll do one more, just, so the trail's not gonna officially be done till spring, is that correct? That's the ribbon cutting, et cetera.
Most likely.
Okay. But in the meantime, people are gonna use it. I mean, just a practical matter.
They're already using it.
You're right.
And there are people already using them, it's every time I see. And that's just gonna be expected, basically, at this point.
It is still a construction site.
Yeah,
People are doing so at their own risk. And
that's that.
that's that.
That's that,
Okay.
right, okay.
They all look very happy.
Yes. they
Yeah,
are
people
all
love it.
very
I mean,
happy.
I've told people it's not open. They said, what? I just went over it. You know,
Right.
it's not. It looks
And I
like it.
think I had, Richard, I subscribed to a bunch of meetup groups for biking. And this one meetup group boldly scheduled a meetup and said, oh, and you know, we've added X number of miles because we get to go into Concord now.
Yeah.
So I just feel like maybe there is signage, maybe it does clearly say that, but
No, people throw the signs into the
yeah,
river. They destroy them, they demolish them, and the contractor is not spending any more money on trying to keep people safe
Right.
because they don't want to be safe.
it's sad.
Okay, well, we'll find out after you guys do the walk, what the official date will be, potentially.
No, you probably won't until your next meeting in December.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, that's good. How do you feel about that, Marcia, about that question? It's okay.
It is all subject to supply chain.
Yep.
Asphalt plants closure and when plants can be planted.
Right. And the weather and the cedar fence and all that, so
It's
we got
all-
it.
It's all weather related and supply chain related.
We're good, okay. If there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Edelman, motion to adjourn.
Agree.
Ms. Boardman,
Aye.
Mr. Follender,
Aye.
Ms. Miller, Mr. Stearns,
I.
and Mr. Welch says aye. This
And Mary Beth?
meeting is now
Mary
adjourned.
Beth?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary Beth, I missed you. Mary Beth,
Aye.
aye, thank you. You know,
You're welcome.
my list is bad here, sorry. The meeting is adjourned as of 8:31. Thank you all for your time and we'll see you on the 10th.